And welcome to Around the Ozarks Spotlight. Each week, we uncover the stories behind the people who live and work here in Southwest Missouri. Those individuals with entrepreneurial spirit who work to better the lives of others or put pen to paper to write books about the stories and history of the Ozarks and its people. I'm your host, Scott Meier. Today, we will be exploring the world of our Springfield Cardinals. And with me is Vice President and General Manager Dan Reiter. Dan, hello.
Hey, Scott.
How you doing?
Always good to chat with you.
You know, this is an annual event, I swear, and more often than not, you've got good news. This time, you've got great news. Why don't you share it?
I've got the best news, and that is that the city of Springfield will be buying Hammons Field. So right now, it's an announcement we're able to make in February, and here we are in March. We're just kind of waiting on the final sign off from a judge, and then the city of Springfield will be our new landlord, and it is the absolute best case scenario that could have been.
Well, if you recall, Dan, you and I ran into one another about a year ago, and you were pretty, for a guy who's never down, you were pretty down. And I think you were kind enough to share a few things with me, but I don't know that the city of Springfield, or at least the population in this area, realizes how close they were to maybe losing a AA team.
Yeah, and the biggest thing there that I've told people, it's we lost the ability to be in control. And right now, Major League Baseball wants every single minor league facility to have a certain set of standards, and a lot of it comes down to health and safety. And I think that's part. Yes, we do the best we can to maintain the field. Yes, the field looks really, really great when you come and visit. But there's a set of standards they want for player safety. So it doesn't matter if you're in single A, double A, triple A. They wanted to make sure it was consistent across the board, not just with the playing surface, but also the amenities behind the scenes. And that's where, for example, both of our training rooms were too small. Our weight room is too small. Our area for our coaches needs to be bigger. We don't have female facilities. So all of those things, they do go into the player experience, and we're lacking. And if we did not get this resolved with the city of Springfield to purchase Hammons Field, Major League Baseball would have been the one that had control to decide what happens to the future of this organization. I think that's the spot that would have been very scary to see what would have had to happen. But luckily, I don't have to deal with that headache. Luckily, the city of Springfield is going to buy this, and it's going to be an amazing asset for our entire community.
It really and truly is. I mean, nobody looked forward to having an empty baseball field, near downtown. That's not good for anybody. And you're right. The field, certainly this time of the year, is one of the more exciting things to see because it's green while everything else is trying to catch up. But the bottom line is, it really puts Springfield on the map as a viable sports city when you've got someone like the Springfield Cardinals playing here.
Yeah, it's something that we've talked about internally that we might be the absolute best that Springfield could get, and we don't mean that in a bad way. We mean it as a way to be very proud of. Is when you look at the way baseball's set up, and you have 30 clubs that are Major League Baseball teams, and you've got 30 clubs that are AAA, and then you've got 30 clubs that are AA. And you've got a crossover between a few. Obviously, New York has multiple, Chicago, LA, but for the most part, that really means that we're somewhere between the 61st and 90th biggest baseball hub in the country. And when you line up the city of Springfield, we are not 61st through 90th in population. And you start looking at the logistics is that we don't have an airport that would be able to be a AAA club. We don't have the size of a city to be an NBA G League, nor do we have the ability for travel. You start looking at the other professional sports and even arena football and XFL. The XFL is in St. Louis. Like, that's not a market we can compete with when they're trying to grow the XFL. So having a AA baseball team in of itself is truly remarkable for our community and it's something to be proud of. But then the fact that it's the St. Louis Cardinals affiliate and that we can see the players here participate with the St. Louis Cardinals 3 hours away. I mean, this is Cardinal country. And I think that combination of not just baseball, but all professional sports leagues and the size of our city, this is the perfect ideal fit. And I think that's something that our community, whether you like baseball or not, that is a huge thing for our community.
Dan Reiter, my guest today on Around the Ozarks Spotlight. Dan has been the general manager now for how long, Dan?
It seems like forever based on what I've had to deal with, but it's about 5 years, 5.5 years.
Okay, you've actually aged since I've known you, which is a good thing because that's what people want to do is age. You've aged well, so that's all worked out.
Well, I've been beaten down by the stadium and by having a 7 and 4-year-old. So since I've known you, my life's gone crazy.
So last couple of weeks, I was down in Florida, and we actually had a chance to take in a Twins Phillies spring training game at Hammond's Field, which was pretty interesting. They have a Hammond Field just outside of Fort Meier. Really pretty setting. But all it did for me was, and I had my Springfield Cardinal shirt on, so of course everybody and their mother was asking me, "Is that the Springfield Cardinals?" I'm like, "That's the one," because people care. Baseball fans know, and I know a lot of them actually make it a thing to travel around to all the ballparks, the AA and AAA ballparks, and get a sense of baseball other than just at the big league level. But so proud to wear the shirt, and so much fun to watch spring training. And soon we'll have that available here. Yes,
less than a month away. Trust me, that date, April 6th, is circled. We've got a lot of work to do, but I think there's a lot of exciting things we've got going on in the stadium. Obviously the most excited is going to be the day that the city takes ownership. But we're always looking to not just have a pretty baseball field, but to enhance the fan experience.
Right.
And that for us, I'll give you a simple one. For example, when you go to one of our games in the middle of the summer, one of the longest lines in the stand is at the Highland Dairy Creamery. It's hot. People want ice cream. The kids are excited. And when I became GM, we actually only operated on one side. We went to making it double-sided because people wanted more ice cream. And by the way, the lines are still longer than we'd like. So we're going to launch a satellite location on the suite level with the hopes that it'll kind of decompress the other lines. And again, it's not something that everyone's going to notice, but it's something like we want the fan experience to be better. And that's why the last few years we've introduced the Thirsty Thursdays, the $2 Tuesdays with $2 hot dogs and brats from Great Southern. And then also the happy half hour where, when we have happy half hour, it sounds fun because you get drink specials for the first 30 minutes gates open. But the bigger part is it decompresses the lines. So if people get there early and they can get in line for their first beverage, and then people showing up later, the lines aren't as long. I'm really big into line decompression. And that's what those different hit and run areas are that you can grab them for the cooler. That's what the satellite creamery is going to be. The more I can decompress lines, the more you're able to sit and actually watch the baseball game. And obviously there's a lot of news about that right now when it comes to the pitch clock in baseball. We've seen the pitch clock in the minor leagues, and we love the pitch clock in the minor leagues.
Right.
It makes for a better fan experience that you see action instead of dead time. And you start pairing that with those decompression of the lines. I think our fan experience is as good as it's been in a long time. And I think that's because we have a passionate staff that we want to keep pushing to make it better.
What's interesting is that the game I was at the other day, of course, one of the Phillies was called out, third strike, because he was late getting back into the box. And, he was having a conversation with the umpire, but it was pretty clear that the ump just said, "That's the rule, and there's the clock." And you know what? That's, to stand there or sit there and watch somebody adjust their glove at every time there's been a passed ball, it can take forever. The game was over in 2.5 hours. It was a lot of fun. Hopefully we'll never come to the point where they call regular season games in a tie, because that's what ended up in this game. That's not a way to watch baseball, but really a great experience. And the new rules will be great. But how about, let's talk about, because this comes up every year. What are the new rules, or what are the rules when people attend a Springfield Cardinals game? And let's start with a purse. Can a person bring a purse into the stadium? And if so, what does it have to look like? What do they need to do?
Yeah, we moved to a clear bag policy. And really across, you start going back to it. We're not the first ones to do it. You saw the NFL, you see concerts, and a lot of them will even do no bag. We felt that clear bag was trying to encourage people to not bring them, but still allow for people to be able to do it. Obviously, there's exceptions for medical bags and for diaper bags.
Sure.
I think those are two things I'll say up front. Those are exceptions. But when it comes to a purse, women can still bring a very small clutch, just not a big purse. And I think, on our website, we've actually got the actual dimensions.
Sure.
And I wanted to say it's like 8 by 6 by 2 or something like that, 8 inches by 6 inches by 2 inches. Don't hold me to that, please. Don't take that to the gambling line in Vegas. But we still want to make sure we're being fan friendly, but also being safe. And I think this is going to it is being discussed at the major league level, that it'll be very interesting to watch over the next 5 years to see how that part of the fan experience changes. And we've been working on some of those things where we went to being cashless, which when you look at the numbers on the number of people who actually already used credit cards, that was almost seamless. And the other part about it is transaction times are faster, which again goes back to what I want to do is make people stand in line less. But we introduced cashless a couple of years ago. We've gone to the clear bag policy. And really we've had to enforce that more. But the other big one is digital tickets. And Major League Baseball is they have really been trying to press teams to say, go only digital tickets, only digital tickets. We've been trying to operate in more of a hybrid world where we're encouraging digital tickets. We're not making people go to them. We've offered our membership tickets that you can pay to print the entire block of your membership tickets for the year. But even this year, we're trying to tell people, hey, when you do a printed ticket, it's going to have a $2 fee, with a way to try to encourage people to go digital. Because for us, we think if we just waited until it's a mandate and you rip the Band-Aid off, it would be ugly. And we don't want to do that. Obviously, I think ultimately it's not going to be our final decision if you go to digital tickets or not. We're just trying to get our fans there respectfully. And I say that because I actually am an advocate of printed tickets. I love printed tickets. When I went to go see Neil Diamond, I paid to have my tickets printed. I like them. And so we get that with people, but we're also trying to do as respectful as we can, get people prepared for the date that it's a mandate, as opposed to just waiting for the mandate to happen.
Well, what's interesting, I brought mine up here. Let me find it. There it is. The Major League Baseball app. And in buying the tickets for the game last it was last week, I guess. Buying tickets for the game last week, they were digital. But the process was really simple. They bought them online. They went right to that app. You pull them from the app. You put them in your Apple Wallet, and boom, it's no harm, no foul. So if an old guy like me can do that, I'm likely to think that the fan base will catch on relatively quick. It's a pretty simple process.
Well, in minor league teams, we are salivating with the prospect of having a ballpark app. Our hope is now that Major League Baseball has really pushed the ballpark app. Our hope is that with them really having the governance of the minor leagues, I think most teams are just salivating. Please give us access to that Major League Baseball ballpark app, because it's awesome. I mean, it really is a fantastic app. They did a great job designing it. Right now, we have digital tickets. It's still a little clunky compared to the MLB ballpark app. But we also know every year they're working to improve it. And that's where we're trying to train our staff, not just how do you sell a ticket, but how do you teach someone that doesn't like digital tickets, how do you teach them to do that? And I think that for us as an organization, whether it was the cashless, the digital tickets, the clear bag, I think we actually try much harder than people might realize to try to transition people into those things versus ripping the Band-Aid off. It's just a better fan experience for them.
Let's talk a little bit about the experience when you're sitting at your seat. Can they get items at their seat, or they have to go up into the walkway?
Yeah, we've experimented with it. It hasn't taken off like what we hoped. I think we're still trying to work with the company to see if there's a better way to do it in the stadium, because we'd like to. I mean, we would, and we've definitely piloted it the last couple of years. Where we're seeing more experience, honestly, it's those what I'll call hit and run locations. Is that you pop up and you see 6 coolers, you see frozen ice cream novelties, and you see hot dogs on the roller. And it's easy for people to get those. And I think that's where we've seen a lot of success, is to make it easy. The delivery to your seats, it's piloted. It hasn't taken off. So we're probably getting ready to come to a threshold of either like, can we make this work or does it need to go away? And sometimes, sometimes you can be ahead of your market, and it might just be that it's not working now, but in 4 more years, it could be amazing.
So actual vendors walking around the stadium, those are gone?
They went away when we introduced the delivery to your seats. So
Okay.
we're kind of in this balance mode of how do you be able to launch it. Now I will say it's the other thing we've noticed, and this has been a trend since COVID. Most teams across baseball, they're trying to figure out how can we get more suites, how can we get more hospitality areas, how can we get more all-inclusive options. Because I think that ease of the food and beverage, you pay your money once and you're done. I think it appeals to fans. It makes it an easy experience where you're not worried about how much more food costs. So this year we're definitely putting some work into those all-inclusive options. We've taken 2 areas that were called party decks that we're making them all-inclusive party decks. So that way it's paid for, it's done, and we think everyone's going to have a great time. And the same thing, we're really trying to make it easier for companies. This will be a really big push for us over the next 2 years. If you go to most minor league teams, they have really great support from their corporate area on company picnics. And for us, that's really not been something we've seen as a good product line. But part of it's our own fault. And we'll say it, is that if it's a clunky buying experience, people don't do it. And if I sit down with you, Scott, and say, I need you to pick between 4 different ticket options, and then if you get to 200, there's a discount, where are you at? Right there, your 8 options. Well, then I say, oh, by the way, I don't handle catering. Let me send you over to the catering person. And then that person gives you 8 options. Right. So all of a sudden now it's like, it's been a horrible experience. And now we've made it very easy. If you want to have a company outing, it's $23 to do your all-inclusive picnic. You get everyone in your group gets a ticket. You're going to have 75 minutes of all you can eat. And here's the menu. Sure. And again, doesn't mean we can't deviate and try to work with people on how to upgrade. But for the most part, it goes in, and you keep hearing me say this on repeat, it's fan experience. Yeah. And by the way, the more companies I get to do all-inclusive picnics, that also decompresses the concession lines for everybody else. So for me, that's what keeps me up at night. Really, there's 2 things. What's going to happen with the stadium and how are we going to improve it? And number 2, how am I going to make that fan experience better?
Opening day again is?
It's going to be Thursday, April 6th. So we're going to have some fireworks. And I'd like to say we'll have perfect April weather, but we all know we're in the Ozarks. And if I guarantee that, I'm a liar.
What do tickets look like?
Tickets, they're available at springfieldcardinals.com. We've still got plenty that are available. And right now, our individual tickets are set to go on sale tentatively, pending approval from Major League Baseball on March 15th.
Excellent. How about parking this year? Now that it's owned by the city, what's that going to look like?
That's another thing. The day that the city closes on it, then we will be able to help manage the parking with the city. Last year, if you showed up on a Saturday night, you were paying $20 to park. This year, that number will go to half. And I think for people, that's now it's so much more in line with what parking should be at a minor league facility. But yeah, we will have significant discounted parking compared to last year.
Dan, I'm seeing all the signs going up for mayoral candidates. I don't see Dan Reiter. You should run. I think people love you.
It's if they've got to annex about 2 blocks before I can officially be. I can vote in school board elections, but I cannot vote for mayor because I'm not inside the city limits.
Oh my goodness!
Annex about 2 blocks, I can be.
Well, I'm excited for you. I'm excited for the season. Anything we didn't cover? We've got about 30 seconds left.
Yeah, I think for us, we're just excited to get back and grow the fan experience. We've been trying to maintain the last few years. We've had no capital improvements, and I think we're getting ready to take off on a growth trajectory. The best case scenario was the city of Springfield purchasing our stadium. I think that partnership is going to be amazing for the community. It's going to be amazing for the Cardinals. It's going to be amazing for the players. And overall, I think the experience of Hammons Field, it's only going to improve. And by golly, we are so excited for that day.
That's great. I want to thank my guest, Dan Reiter, Vice President, General Manager of our Springfield Cardinals. And let's play ball. We'll be back in a moment with more on Around the Ozarks Spotlight right after these messages. Thanks again, Dan.
Thank you, Scott.
Hey, everybody, it's Ethan and Sarah Forhetz from your favorite podcast, Around the Ozarks in 5. I'm sure you've been wondering, how can I get even more amazing stories, events, and witty banter to start my day?
Well, look no further. Here we are. Sign up for our daily newsletter. You'll have what's going on around the Ozarks right at your fingertips each weekday morning.
Yeah, just go to aroundtheozarks.com, click on the newsletter tab to sign up.
Thanks for listening to Around the Ozarks in 5. We hope to see you in your inbox soon.
And welcome back to the second half of today's Around the Ozarks Spotlight. I'm your host, Scott Meier, and always exciting times when I have the directors from the Springfield Little Theatre with us, because that means we've got a new production, and in this case, it's a new production that is actually starting or is on as this show airs on Sunday morning. And with me is Marni Erwin. Marni is the director for the play that goes wrong, right, Marni?
Yes, I'm the director with Beth Doman.
With Beth. Well,
Yeah,
that's even better. Okay,
a
two director. How does that work?
Well, you know, it's we've got understudies for the show, so why not have understudies for direction as well?
Oh, I love it. So, Marni, we haven't talked about this before. I'm not sure we've met before, and that's only because I'm an old guy and sometimes I forget. But having said that, let's talk about some of the other productions before we get into this one. What's the last thing that you had a hand in?
I did Steel Magnolias. I was a director for that.
Okay, so the play that goes wrong, prior to us getting together to do the program, I had mentioned to Marni that my wife and I were in New York. I guess it's 2 years ago now. May have been pre-pandemic. You know, who knows anymore? But it was right around that time. And she had gotten us tickets to see the play that goes wrong on Broadway. And I came away from that. We both came away from that saying, my God, the choreography. The show is funny. The show is great. But the choreography of the show is such that, boy, if you're not careful, bad things could happen.
It's outrageous. I mean, it's scary. Once I read the script, I have not been lucky enough to see it. I've only seen I think 10 minutes that they have from the Royal Variety performance, which is great, you know, but I didn't get to see the whole thing. And as I read the script, I was like, whoa, there's a lot to do and a lot that can go wrong that's not supposed to go wrong.
Well, that's just it. There's things that can go wrong in a show that can go wrong, and they do go wrong, but you wouldn't know.
No, nobody's going to know if we mess up or not.
So is this, we always like to talk about, is this for all ages can see this show?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the only thing that could be questionable is one of the women is in a slip at one point. But other than that, you know,
Yeah.
It's okay.
I think most kids see mom. They have that mom moment when they go, I really didn't want to see that, but I had to see it because it was mom. And
Exactly.
the bathroom's down the hall. So what are you going to do? So who is Marni Erwin? Let's hear a little bit about you.
Well, I'm a military brat, so I'm not really from anywhere. I was born in upstate New York, and then I've lived all over the place. Got into theater in my 30s when I was living in Wales in the UK.
Okay.
And I just auditioned for a pantomime, which is their Christmas tradition of a classic children's story, but then they add all this crazy stuff into it and music and a dame who is a man dressed as a woman. It's a lot. And so anyway, I got into that and then started writing a little bit. And then when we moved back to the States, when I came here, I went and saw Steel Magnolias at Springfield Little Theatre.
Okay.
And I remember walking in the theater and going, oh my gosh, this place is beautiful, you know,
Yeah.
And I auditioned for a show. I've done a little bit of acting, but I really found my niche in the tech side of it.
Okay.
Working behind the scenes in black, you don't see me, or directing, which I really like as well.
So when I get to see the preview here, typically many directors, not typically, it's not fair, but a lot of the directors end up standing at the back of the theater watching that performance for the preview. Is that going to be you, or are you somewhere else?
I will be sitting on the stairs chewing.
What's left of your fingernails? Is that it?
I'm hoping that nothing goes wrong that's not supposed to go wrong.
Now, the play that goes wrong, when was that written?
It was actually written in 2012, and it was over in the UK. It was written, I wrote down the names. It was Henry Lewis, Jonathan Sayer, and Henry Shields.
Okay.
And they put together this play, and they kind of shopped it around to these small theaters. And I think 2 years later, they were actually put on the West End, and it's been running ever since.
Is that right? So that's
Yeah.
been a long running process for them.
Long gag.
Well, it's what's crazy about it is it doesn't, sometimes things are period pieces,
Mhm.
which, can date them a little bit. This thing isn't a period piece at all. This could be
No.
anytime, anywhere.
It could. I mean, you really have free reign to do that with it because the time that it's set in doesn't really matter.
Mhm.
It just matters that you have actors that are trying to be bad actors, and it's just a lot.
And the heck of it is, to put it in perspective for anybody that's not been at Springfield's Little Theater, there's a lot of really good actors here. So
Yeah.
I'm assuming that you were able to assemble a lot of the good actors to be bad actors.
You need a really good actor to be a bad actor. Yes.
How many are
We have-
involved in this production?
Pardon?
How many involved in this production?
There are 7 cast actors that have names, and then
Okay.
there's 6 actors that are the crew or they're understudies. So usually with an understudy, you don't get a chance to be on stage unless one of the main actors is sick. But with this show, we've made it the understudies are actually the show crew.
Mhm.
It's the real crew behind the scenes, but we also have the show crew that is seen.
So the play that goes wrong is currently on, as people will see and hear this program, and it runs through when? When does it run through?
The 9th through the 19th.
Okay.
So it's
And
short.
I'm sorry?
It's a short run.
It is a short run. Why is that?
Typically, the straight plays, which are the non-musicals, don't run as long as the musicals do.
Now, have tickets been good for this so
They
far? Ticket
started
sales?
getting crazy. Yeah.
Okay.
was
I think once the word gets out on how different the show is, that can only help.
Yeah, and there might not be many seats left by that time. That's what I'm afraid of. I hope people get tickets soon because it really is starting to dwindle down now.
Now, how excited are you?
I'm really excited. I'm really nervous. I mean, we have our final dress rehearsal tonight, and then tomorrow night, obviously this is Sunday when you're playing this, but right now it's Tuesday. So tomorrow night is our first audience, and the actors are ready. They need the laughter. They need that input coming back from the audience.
How did you get Beth to assist with you in the directing and not on stage? Because I got to believe she probably wanted to be in this production.
We both would have loved to have been in this production because it's so funny. And Beth came to me and said, "We're doing the play that goes wrong. Do you want to join up forces and do this?" And I'm like, yes, please. And so we started looking at it this last summer, and then it's taken a long time to really put all the balls in one place. And I've been building props, and it's just there's so much to do with this show.
There's so much that goes into it. Is there live music at all for this show?
No, it's just going to be pre-recorded, kind of incidental music. But there's lots of live sound effects. There's recorded sound effects. There's just everything. I can't even get on the list.
Are we going to recognize some of the players from previous shows?
I mean, Jamie Bauer is the lighting designer. He plays Jonathan, or excuse me, he doesn't play Jonathan. He plays, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm doing this.
Well, wait till you get older. I'll tell you, it gets a lot worse as you get older.
Oh, it's terrible. I mean, I sat here trying to think, okay, now don't miss anything. Don't forget anything when you're
But people will recognize some faces.
Oh, absolutely, yes. They're seasoned actors. And then we have people who have never been on the boards before, and they're very, very good. So
does that surprise you here in Springfield? Coming from play acting and writing, especially overseas, were you surprised when you came to Springfield to see the kind of actors and actresses we have?
I am really surprised at the wealth of talent here, and it spans the spectrum of age. From college, high school kids, obviously going through the theater's program of teaching young children how to sing, dance, act, all the way up to, I mean, we have people in their 70s and probably 80s.
That's excellent. That's excellent. I'm so excited for you, and I'm looking forward to seeing the production. It's going to be running again, The Play That Goes Wrong, at Springfield's Little Theater through, again, the date?
19th.
The 19th.
The 19th Sunday. The
Okay,
19th.
19th Sunday of March, and the tickets are going fast. So
Yeah.
we need people to do that. I want to thank my guest, last minute guest, and I appreciate that, Marni Erwin, for being here and telling us about the newest play at Springfield's Little Theater, and also my initial guest today, Vice President and General Manager Dan Reiter of the Springfield Cardinals. Exciting that we own the team now, literally the where they play anyway, and they're going to stay here in the Ozarks for at least probably a decade or longer beyond that. I want to thank all of you to having been with us today at Around the Ozarks Spotlight. Also, my producers, Taylor Worley and Jay Stevens, as well as all of you for joining us. If you happen to miss or all or part of today's program, you can find it in its entirety on the MidwestFamilySpringfield.com website, the AroundTheOzarks.com site, or even our new app for ATO, for Around the Ozarks, which can be found in Apple apps or Android apps. And you can hear and view today's show as well as all earlier shows this year and last year. I'm Scott Meier. Remember, every day is a gift. Please enjoy life. Thanks again, Marni, and we'll see
Thank
you
you.
all later.
Okay.
Have a great day.
You too.